But one last comment is that the U.S. has been paying tens of millions of dollars to the opposition since the election of Hugo Chavez in 1999. And we have to understand where that money has been going. It's been going to training and fomenting the opposition, right? These kind of Guarimba, the more violent fascistic wing of the opposition protests that we were in the middle of, who actually just killed and burned the body of another pro-government protester just yesterday, which is really horrifying. But we have to also kind of question what we're seeing online, because a lot of Venezuelans who are present in America, we know what kind of Venezuelans and Cuban exiles live in Miami. So the Venezuelans who are in America and the Venezuelans who are very prominent on like social media do not represent the Venezuelans who we are talking about, which, you know, are more poor working class. Again, when's the last time you saw an Afro-Venezuelan being interviewed? And some of these, you know, regions that we went to, it was all Afro-Venezuelans, which was pretty shocking.
Wow.
Because I literally only saw white Venezuelans before.
Right.
So there is a very visceral class dynamic to this, and we just have to kind of question what we're seeing, because again, where does that money go? A lot of it's going to correct the record online.
Oh.
And we don't know what's real and what's not when we see kind of, I'm Venezuelan, I live this every
Right,
day, I'm
I
eating
know.
rats. It's like, I know.
I'm always suspicious of those people. So there's a little bit more from this gentleman in...
From the basis of Chavismo, both those who continue to support Nicolas Maduro, but those who historically voted for Hugo Chavez, which is the majority of the population. This majority of the population, that 60%, according to data analysis pollster, who opposes U.S. sanctions, they don't view kindly upon the United States coming in, especially an extremely unpopular figure himself, Donald Trump, who has spoken nothing but terrible things about Latin American countries and their peoples, to come and appoint a president. You know, obviously that is very poorly viewed here in Venezuela. The question is, you know, Juan Guaidó, if I were Juan Guaidó right now and I wanted to be president of Venezuela, I would go to the barrio. Instead of hiding for 2 days, not being seen, I would be in the barrios, talking to people, making myself seen, and talking to people about their ordinary problems. He is not doing that. He clearly is just getting his marching orders from Washington.
So Guaidó is not visible right now.
Let's go.
And that guy's from Venezuela Analysis, an excellent source on the ground.
Venezuela Analysis.
Unbelievable.
Really
and also, all the things that we're talking about, just really quickly, a plug for both of our Twitter accounts and YouTube on the Empire Files, because we have a playlist for all our Venezuela coverage that really goes in depth to all the issues that we're talking about. We've also spent the last week pulling clips and sound bites from all of the coverage, putting them on our Twitters to try to just counter this coup propaganda. And it's really important that we do this.
I agree.
So check it out.
He's got a little bit more to say.
No, the atmosphere is definitely a kind of an eerie calm in that sense that people reject. Although there has been violence in various communities in the last 3 nights, the overwhelming majority of Venezuelans, they lived through the violence of 2014, the violence of 2017. They don't want their communities to be destroyed, their public and private property to be damaged, infrastructure, etc. They're not taking part in these violent protests. And the desire of most Venezuelan people is to have their most pressing everyday issues resolved and not have any kind of violent outcome, which, you know, is very real given the escalation that the United States is pushing right now.
Okay, so again, the violence coming from the United States. Isn't this amazing? It's the same. It's the oldest story in the world, and it drives me nuts that people who follow the news closely have no idea what's going on in Venezuela, and it's the same old fucking story as Iraq. It's the same old story as Libya, Syria. It never ends. It's the same old fucking story, and here we are. There's natural resource. You know, when Trump says Syria is just sand and death, it's not what's in Syria that people want. People want to put a pipeline through Syria. That's a big deal, right? So that's why that sand and death is important, because the pipeline's going to go through there, and it would be natural gas, which now Putin and the Russians supply to Europe, and of course they want to have that pipeline do it. So that's what this. So again, people even know that. That drives me nuts, and that's just one of the reasons we're in Syria, right? There's Israel also wants us there to counter Iran, and so again, it is. By the way, none of these things have anything to fucking do with us.